Deshaun Watson, it wasn't overwhelmingly impressive. I know he'd been out and under. He seemed sort of indifferent to the pressure that was being cast upon him by constantly being under the George Santos now microscope, where every day somebody's following him with a microphone going, "What the fuck did you do now?" Can't believe he stiffed that Amish guy. Not even on butter, on puppies. No?
Yeah, it was like
he didn't even buy one of those heaters, the cockamamie heaters. Remember what happened to those? They don't make them anymore? The Amish? Remember when they were advertising that like every other ad? It was, for one of those heaters that they made. We do everything right here on the premises. Yeah, great. Okay, right? Meanwhile, you see some truck pulls up with Japanese lettering on it. Right next to the buckboard. All right.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on this Wednesday edition of the program. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubie Lubitz. Later on, 8 o'clock hour, we go old school as we do every Wednesday, or pretty much every Wednesday. I would say, it's about 48 out of 52.
Yeah.
Once in a while, we got to move a little, do a little juxtaposition there of the schedule, but to accommodate Tony's many travels. But Tony Segreto goes old school with us at 8 o'clock today. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Very favorably compared there, Lubie, as we mentioned yesterday, with Outback Steakhouse. And this appeared to be a fairly, well done and well researched article about comparing the two. They were talking about chain restaurants, which one's better, on quality of food, price, service, universal, treatment of people, all the stores essentially the same. It was a runaway, Texas Roadhouse. So Ed Garcia, come on, I'm sure we'll pass that along to him. He may even be aware of it. I don't know. How aware of this kind of publicity do you think people they seem so busy, so focused on just doing a great job that I don't even know if they have time to read the press clippings, right?
They know.
And all the accolades that they receive. But
they know.
It's always good when the general public is constantly giving you the old El Cesarano there, the thumbs up. And you're saying, all right. That's, a good way to be perceived as the top quality place. So we'll have Tony coming up later on, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. A healthy, hearty hello to our good friend Rosalina. I always love when she weighs in right away as, one of our biggest fans and supporters of the program here. Since day one, Lubie. Since day one. Andy, man, another great supporter of the show. In fact, all you guys that are on the chat line, we greatly appreciate what you do and prodding us along here through the show. Hey, you ever going to say something significant, Defo? I love that. I do. It's great. All right, many things happening. Tomorrow, Lubie's working on Jim Larinaga for tomorrow. Is that going to be the case? Jim Larinaga, the basketball coach. I saw them ranked 13th now. And obviously having a very distinctive season, coming off their appearance in the Elite Eight last year. Is it the Grade 8 or the Elite 8? I never...
Elite 8. I think years ago it used to be the Grade 8, but it's been the Elite 8 my entire life.
If you have Sweet 16, shouldn't you go with some kind of rhyming or alliteration there, right? With the Grade 8, Elite 8. I guess Elite 8 would be alliteration, yes, but it doesn't seem that way, right? Because you're not thinking, well, that starts with an E, that starts with an E.
It doesn't rhyme.
What are we talking about here? E.E. Cummings? Grade 8 would be, I think, a better way of, characterizing what was going on there. Wow, fine season on the back end of that. Pretty hard to do, too. I guess we'll get into this with Tony because, wow, I mean, I was around the Hurricane basketball program and deeply entrenched in it, calling their games for a couple of years and going on the road with the team and traveling and living and dying by all of the travails of Leonard Hamilton, who was... I mean, he literally, he didn't have a whole lot of hair on the top of his head there, but he would have pulled out whatever was there under the circumstances. And, I keep coming back to this because I'll never forget when he told me, if I could just stick a shovel in the ground here on campus and show this to recruits, I could bring people here to this program that would turn the thing around. But they were campaigning in the Big East at the time. Big East was a pretty heavyweight, top-heavy conference with a lot of good teams. And they just weren't up to speed. And it was rough, right? I think they lost 17 straight conference games, something like that. Does that make sense? Or is that a number that we should...
something like that. No, I think it was at least multiple years.
It was ugly, man. I mean, they couldn't beat anybody. And, and coming into town as like a designated patsy, it literally was like traveling with the Washington Generals at that time. And you try to be upbeat and you try to find the positives. Naturally, you're the home team announcer. You're not going to sit there and just rag, wow, this is the worst basketball I've ever seen. What are they doing with this kid? How did they give him a scholarship? I mean, you can't do that the whole game.
No.
As much as probably was more applicable than some of the bouquets. Well, what an effort tonight by the kids. I tell you what. They only got beat by 31, but the score was not indicative of just how hard these guys fought.
I was waiting for you to say the term not
And
indicative.
we have Kevin Norris coming over to the desk here. He was 2 for 13 in the ball game. Shot a lot of bricks. But really, the defensive end, Kevin. I mean,
It has a lot of heart.
Yeah. Such bullshit. And then we would, pad it with a Fern Labonte interview. Fern Labonte was a women's basketball coach and very nice lady, but dreadfully boring in an interview situation. Sorry, Fern, but that was just no one cared. I mean, there was zero interest at that time in women's basketball, and especially Canes women's basketball, which the Canes women's team, I don't know. I mean, am I getting out of control here by implying that they might have been able to at least take the men's team into overtime? No? Constantine Popa, man, had that little hook shot, but every other one was a brick. Just go flying right over the basket. It was pretty sad. I mean, it was a comedy of errors, all of those games. And, trying to call them and exhibit some kind of actual balance. It was almost like a forerunner for Fox News, the broadcast. As, Sonny Hirsch and I would poo-poo the thing. And then Sonny had, some kind of voice problem, so I was calling the games. The following year, doing a play-by-play with, who was a frequent color announcer on those games? The coach, Tony Fiorentino, used to travel on the road with me, and we would be hard-pressed to come up with anything positive that came out of it. They started to win some games in the second year. But, we know this, and he's having a terrible year this year with Florida State. What happened with your FSU team, with Leonard Hamilton?
That's a wonderful question because they've been horrible.
They've been great, though, before that. I mean, they were really... exceeded anybody's expectations for Florida State basketball, didn't they, under Leonard?
Yes, they had become, because he was horrible the first 15 years. That's what's funny is it was forgotten. But he had 5 years where they looked like they became a program, like ranked every year, tournament every year, made an Elite 8 run, a Sweet 16 run, underwhelmed 2 years when they were supposed to be a Final Four team and lost in the 32s. And then the last 2 years, it's gone back to garbage. Like last year, they not only missed all the tournaments, they weren't good. This year, they were pathetic. They started like 0-11. They literally had what you joke about Syracuse, but had like Binghamton, SUNY, and friggin' like schools I literally didn't know had basketball teams, like Division II, and lost by double digits to those teams. I know you made me change my opinion because we had him on, and then we had him on here,
but he had a nice run there. I mean, you can't do that while being incompetent, can you?
Yeah, no, it's not about incompetent. Now it's old. I mean, he's in great shape and great spirit. So people forget how old he is. I think he's in his mid-70s. Like he's like, I don't think
he's older than I am.
30 years, but he's in his mid-70s. Like,
well, so is Jim Larinaga though. And Larinaga seems sharp as a tack. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be losing a step.
So I don't know what they're going to do with I don't know what they're going to do with Larinaga. They're going to build a statue to Hamilton, which he's held in super high regard. I don't know.
He gets a 2-year pass off on what they did over the previous 5 or 6 years when they were a big factor in the NCAA tournament and had some marvelous teams and produced some good players. Jim Larinaga, I mean, to sustain this here in Miami, I just remember, and this is going back 30 years ago, so obviously over time things can change, but often it doesn't. In these circumstances where, a program is resurrected, like the Miami program was, University of Miami, resurrected, and they had a horrible time early on. They had this crazy independent schedule with, was it Bill Foster? What was the coach of the team? Bill Foster, right? Bob Foster was the dance instructor. And that was Bob Fosse.
Yes, Bob Fosse was the great choreographer. I don't know you.
Foster had some distinction as a head coach. He had success prior to becoming a Miami coach. Obviously, he was at the very tail end of that when he took this job. And it was really a ragtag thing. And they had no arena. They didn't even have really a central place to play because I believe this was prior to the erection, if you will, of the old Miami arena for the Miami Heat, who came into existence in the 1988, what was that, 88, 89 season?
Yes.
So if that was their first year, then the first year of that building was 88, 89. And prior to that, the University of Miami was playing games at like Highlight Frontons and the Night Center, where it was really weird. I mean, because the guys are there at the court. I mean, the Night Center had a stage that they played on, and then everybody else was sitting back as if you were at like a musical show or something. So very, very strange circumstances. They did have a couple of decent players back then when the program was originally brought back. It wasn't like they had Rick Barry, but they did, have a couple of decent players. And then the program just kind of meandered around there, but never really took off. And I'm amazed. I was thinking about it this morning when you told me about Jim Larinaga yesterday, and I was thinking, well, if Jim's on the show, how was he able to sustain this? That's not easy to do at the University of Miami. They did get the arena on campus, the Wasco Center, and it obviously provides them with a huge advantage because I believe they're undefeated there.
They now have
so far this year.
At least this year, they've not lost a game.
And there's some atmosphere there, which I never anticipated. You could hear the squeaking of the sneakers all the way in the upper deck when they were playing at the Miami Arena. And, literally, there was a big complaint then about the way that they kind of accommodated people that had season tickets prior. And they did something that really seemed like a screw job to their loyal fans, where they had made these seats at such a premium that, and there were really not enough people to fill even 3 rows there in the Miami Arena. You couldn't have filled 3 rows all the way around the court with the number of people that used to go to these Canes games. And it was dreadful. So I was looking at that, and and that's kind of my background with it. And you thought, well, it's a hopeless situation. Although this, right? One good recruit from any country in the world, you can go to Zambia and grab a guy, and the next thing you know, you have a top 10 program. One guy can turn a basketball team around. Not necessarily without some also shrewd help that you acquire on the roster, but one big get, and you might be able to turn it around. Larinaga is not really doing it that way because the biggest star he has on the roster is Isaiah Wong, or the most well-known guy coming out of high school, as far as I know. I don't know. Have you heard of any of these other guys? I mean, was Nigel Pack a guy that was highly coveted by other college coaches? I'm not sure. A short guy that can shoot. What do you think? He dunked one the other day. What's that?
Wong at 27 the other day, but I mean, it's a lot of games in the teens. It's
very well balanced team. It could be somebody else any night, which is good. Yep. 3 or 4 different guys are capable of leading the team scoring.
I mean, they spread it around, and he's done really good with the transfers. Like he was one of the harsh critics of the portal and NIL before, but he also knows you got to do what you got to do to survive, and he jumped in with head first very quickly, and he's doing a great job with it.
Excellent. No, I mean, right from the start, he's had a level of consistency where, it hasn't been breakthrough type of stuff where, you're in the Final Four yet, but, definitely a very, very representative showing, especially under the circumstances that the University of Miami was dealing with. And then moving into the ACC, where you thought they were going to get buried in basketball and prosper in football, and it's been just the opposite. They haven't been able to do squat in football, and the basketball team has actually won the ACC championship. In the past, which is pretty incredible. All right, a lot of things happening. Chris Perkins is going to join us in about a half an hour here on the program, and we'll get to Skinny on what's going on in the offseason with the Miami Dolphins, and then Tony will reminisce about all kinds of good things that happened over the many, many years that we've been following sports here. Tony, the iconic broadcaster here in South Florida, maybe the all-time greatest in terms of sportscasting. Certainly, in terms of sportscasting presence. Where, you think of sports in South Florida, immediately it's synonymous with Segreto. So looking forward to having Tony on the show later on. All right. Did we go Johnny Cochran on this? Too many times, Lubie. Johnny Cochran.
What now?
Have we been playing the race card without really any knowledge of what's going on in the inner workings and machinations of the NFL as they consider Eric Bieniemy as a possible head coach? We immediately flashed the race card. Racist bastards, bunch of stodgy old white guys. Why don't they just take the sheets and put them on their head in a cone shape and then tell us that they're all about balance and equity and equality with their investment in trying to get diversity to be part of the league?
I mean,
what do you think?
There's going from 4 black coaches to 3 5 openings.
But I'm talking specifically about Bieniemy here.
But again, Shady McCoy is a jackass.
There you go. Okay, now you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal the lead because what's interesting, and he used specifics, and I'm so appreciative of that. Again, I don't know what Bieniemy does. I've never said to know what Bieniemy does, but we do know that Peterson was in the same spot, and Matt Nagy was in the same spot, and Shane Steichen was in the same spot, and Kevin O'Connell was in the same spot. And what's the same thing they have in common that Bieniemy doesn't? So that
would be a Caucasian male.
McCoy was there. Oh, and the other thing, McCoy was there for like half a year, sucked, never got the ball. And
so maybe he has an agenda with Bieniemy.
Yes, that's what I like. Jamal Charles, who actually was there longer and became great under Bieniemy, said this is a load of garbage. Bieniemy's great. And yeah, Jamal Charles was a running back. So was McCoy. That's the thing. If you're going to say McCoy is talking about him being a running back coach, he's a fucking running back. Like Charles became an all-pro running back there from like a second or third round pick under Bieniemy, and says, yeah, this is a load of garbage. McCoy is just hating because he sucked and was done. Bieniemy's great. Like Bieniemy is literally getting screwed, deserves to be head coach. That's I understand what McCoy was trying to do.
Well, he was saying, talk about shady. I mean, he was casting shade all over Bieniemy's resume and saying that essentially he does nothing, that he's just standing there, handing cheeseburgers and ketchup to Andy Reid as Andy does all of the work, which, and if you hear the various reasons why people haven't given Bieniemy a job, that seems to be the biggest one that nobody's, besides the fact that they say he doesn't interview well, which I'm not sure that that's the case. I don't know that I've ever seen like an extensive Eric Bieniemy interview. Why doesn't somebody grab him on SportsCenter, sit him down for 20 minutes and say, oh, they don't have that Outside the Line show anymore?
No, they just got rid of it.
In fact, like real journalism, did they fire Jeremy Schaap on top of that?
He made it was funny, like literally it's the curse of our show, like the day after he came on.
Oh, yeah, he left ESPN. Get out of here.
He had a cryptic tweet about the end of Outside the Lines.
Yeah.
What else does he do there?
Did he do some reporting? I don't know. I mean, Jeremy Schaap's a good interviewer. I would have, especially after Rinaldi left, he was their go-to guy for interviews because everybody loved to talk to Rinaldi because, I mean, not that he did a bad job, but he didn't really challenge these guys.
He's soft
with anything. I mean, I don't even know if he brought up any of the negative stuff. Like if Nick Saban trusts you to do the interview, then I have a funny feeling that you're more than willing to capitulate to not asking any real questions.
Saban and
which, I mean, and I believe Tom Rinaldi to be a credible guy, but he, certainly has been cast in a situation where he was the go-to guy for the Tiger interviews. The Tiger said nothing, which is why I'm amazed that people haven't seen some kind of, I mean, unless this guy is the greatest actor ever, there's been a definitive change in Tiger Woods' approach to things. I mean, he answers questions candidly now where he never did before. In fact, he wouldn't even field questions that would lead him into any kind of an area where he might say something that was going to foul up his image as the perfect human being. And, but Schaap, I mean, I think that he would go ahead and pursue whatever it was that the public wanted to hear about, at least address it, right? I mean, you're not going to badger somebody into, if you just want to do some kind of attack journalism, right? And the guy, is going to be hard pressed to respond. It's kind of like when we had Rick Pitino on, actually. And sure, we had to ask him about the scandals, but the guy had driven his own car to the station, declining our offer of a limousine, and showed up like early and stuck around for an hour, and then said, "Hey, anytime you want to do this," and he meant it because he came on our show many times after that.
Yep.
Did we need? If we sat there and badgered him for an hour about NCAA violations, how insignificant overall in the overall scheme now of the history of sport, how insignificant have NCAA violations become? Completely meaningless. They've been rendered meaningless by the circumstances that they created themselves because they refuse to cave in and capitulate to even the slightest bit of consideration of taking care of the players who weren't making these guys. I mean, you had coaches making $10 million a year, which you still do, and players making nothing. I mean, there's a discrepancy there. You would have to say, as any logically thinking, red-blooded American, that there's an inequity in the system at that point. And we talk about it all the time. I mean, the NCAA rules about recruiting were designed long before the money was so gargantuan in the game,
It
long
was
before
amateur.
every game was televised.
Yes, it was literally amateur.
Yeah.
That why they use that word. It wasn't some pretty bow on a pig. It was amateur. It wasn't money, and it
Yes.
grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew, and they kept wanting to say it was amateur. It's like, no.
The cloak of amateurism was very much like this whole business with the Second Amendment, where
Yes.
I mean, the laws were made when it was the Wild West. They didn't want people going out there and shooting everybody, and not having any defense. So, if some guy came at you with a shotgun, you were able to come back with a musket, stuff that thing in there, and maybe get off the second shot. But society was different then. I mean, these laws no longer are applicable anymore. I mean, they're ridiculous, as was the case for what, the last 30 years, 40? As long as we can remember, when it came to the NCAA and the whole charade that they were running an amateur operation, when in reality they were running one of the most successful professional businesses. It was almost like getting the exemption of the church, Joel Osteen, where you can pay yourself $54 million and not be subjected to any tax. None. I'm spreading the word of God. Okay, great, man. How about forking over half of that money, right, to the government, like the rest of us have to do if we were in that category.
Well, that's the thing that's so weird about that is being tax exempt.
Yeah.
It's supposed to help you. You're not supposed to use it. Oh, cool. That's another jet.
Yeah, good, man. The guy's got a bigger fleet of planes than United Airlines. I mean, it's incredible.
It's better than Spirit.
The cutesy wife always gets me, man. The, Barbie doll wife. And they always have to incorporate her into the thing as if, she's a big factor in this monetary grab that they're making. All right. So anyway, so you're not buying it. You think that's all bullshit about LaShawn McCoy saying that Bieniemy does nothing. And, my first impression when I was reading this, I didn't think, okay, it's one crackpot who was dissatisfied with a brief period of time there under Bieniemy at Kansas City. And McCoy obviously, is not. It's not like you're going to somebody and you're thinking, man, it's not like you're going to Bill Bradley for an opinion about the Knicks when he was playing, or you're some other team's coach, and you're thinking, well, no matter what, this guy is going to give a very responsible and well thought out answer. But I thought right away, well, geez, maybe that's something that everybody in the league knows, that this guy really doesn't have anything to do with it, as some people imply.
Well, my first reaction wasn't to go after McCoy because I forgot. I didn't do the math because he was so good for a decent long time for a running back in this day and age. For a second, forgot the timeline. So I didn't. My first reaction wasn't to hate on him. My first reaction was maybe he does do nothing, which is a load of garbage. They wouldn't put him there.
I can't imagine. I mean, why would Andy Reid have the guy around just as a puppet? I mean, what was he, Dave Campo?
Yeah, exactly. That was my first reaction was, no, they don't need him there for no reason. But fine. Let's say he does nothing. He didn't say he sucked as a coach. He just said he doesn't do anything with the passing game. He doesn't
do anything with the running game.
Coordinating. No, he says he said the run game's his thing, and he's good running back coach.
Oh, okay, all right.
But he doesn't do the passing game, and he doesn't call plays, and he has nothing to do with any of that. He does nothing with that. Okay, I'm like, let's say that's true. Fine. Okay, but how do you know that Kevin O'Connell did more? How do you know? Again, it's the thing I come back to. All the guys that got the chances, and who do we talk? We talked about.
So the race card is appropriate then.
That's my thing. Is
you're saying Cochran was right?
They were under.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Offensive coaches, head coaches that were very involved in everything. So why would they be more involved? That's my problem with McCoy's comments.
I mean, it's impossible to say. I mean, the only guy that would know would be the head coach of the team.
And that's it.
I mean, does Andy Reid walk around and go, I can't believe I'm carrying this jackass's jockstrap, with me for years now, and he's getting all the credit in the world. I mean, you never hear Reid say that he does nothing.
It's the opposite. That's my thing is, you just said it. You can only trust the head coach, right? Well, the head coach here has been pitching for Bieniemy to get jobs for 4 years.
Yeah.
And literally told Bieniemy, as we know, look, you may need to leave, but make sure you have full control because you deserve it. You've earned it. Okay. So, what else?
Big dark cloud. I mean, you talk about it's appropriate, I guess, that the guy who was making these assertions is nicknamed Shady, because a big dark cloud of shade has been hovering over Bieniemy for a long time, based on the idea that he really is non-impactful in terms of doing anything significant with that offense. And now he goes. I mean, you couldn't take on a bigger challenge if you were going to prove yourself. Although I think he will have autonomy under Ron Rivera, who seems to be, I mean, just an outstanding stand-up guy, and would be more than happy, I'm sure, to see Bieniemy succeed on the highest of levels. Obviously, it would help him. But the Commanders had the 30th ranked offense in just about every category, 30th or worse, which there's only two positions worse. And if you look at all of their offensive statistics, you will see like a 30, a 31, a 32 next to them in terms of, quarterback play, passing game, running game. I mean, negative plays, they're, topping the league. So obviously a huge, huge undertaking for Eric Bieniemy. If he is any good, we'll know right away. Although, I mean, I guess maybe we won't because maybe it's so insurmountable, the problems that they have there. They obviously have to find some kind of a quarterback help, which it's interesting. Did you see the Jets' approach to trying to convince Derek Carr to sign with the Jets?
No.
Which I think of the guys out there, obviously, Derek Carr, I think, has the most shelf life of guys that have a proven track record. I don't think he is as terrible as people implied. I mean, not a great situation in the last several years with the Raiders, whether they were playing in Oakland or Las Vegas, and they've just had screwed up management the whole time. Have uncertainty at the coaching position. You got Josh McDaniels there now. I mean, who knows? I mean, how long he lasts? Is that going to be a 2-year tenure? I don't know that he's going to be in great shape. I mean, they were actually thinking about signing Tom Brady before he retired. At least. That was the implication in the media, and it made some sense if you're going to go for a 1-year guy. I mean, but does that really solve your problem? If you have one good season and then revert back to having the same difficulties that you face every year, kind of like the Dolphins with their offensive line situation. It's every year. It's the same story. Same story every year. When are we going to have an offensive line? I mean, how do you go like 30 years and not solve that problem? It's possible. I mean, not everybody has a great offensive line. Offensive linemen are at a big premium now. And it's funny that the big slugs in the game became the most important and critical element that you can almost, routinely go through all of the teams that have had success, and all of them could pinpoint one thing. Yeah, our offensive line held together. And if not, you're in dire straits where, no matter what you bring in, no matter what clever coach, you can have Mike McDaniel, you can bring in Vic Fangio, you could bring back Lombardi from the grave. And if your offensive line sucks,
fucked.
Yeah, I mean, may as well just ask for a blindfold and a last drag on a cigarette. Hey, Gilmore, line up against the wall there. Yeah. Remember that guy opted to be shot, Gary Gilmore?
Yeah.
That was a weird thing. And they did it. They said, okay, sure, Gary, we'll shoot you. How barbaric. Utah, those Mormons. Unbelievable. No wonder Barkley didn't have such a good time there. The Jets are trying to convince Derek Carr that he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, interesting.
If he wins with the New York Jets.
Oh, if he wins. Oh, well. Probably.
First ballot Hall of Famer. In other words, they're telling him, this whole legacy thing is huge. I'm not as into it as a lot of other people are that cover sports. I mean, always debating, what's his legacy going to be? The guy's a rookie. I don't know what his legacy is going to be. Tear up his knee next year and never play again. And his legacy is going to be that he had, an unfortunate, a very brief career. But, I think that's probably true, right? I mean, if he won a Super Bowl in New York,
Super Bowl, yes. If he goes to the New York Jets and wins a Super Bowl,
their first since 1969.
Yes, he'll be in a Ring of Honor somewhere, and you would think, and he put up a lot of stats, so he would probably do a few years of stats, so he'd do the Stafford thing. I mean that's okay.
Is Stafford a Hall of Famer? He's going to get into the Hall of Fame, but is he a Hall of Famer in your opinion? Matthew Stafford. All those sorry records that he posted with the Detroit Lions, as they said in Good Will Hunting, right? I mean, I can see Robin Williams. It's not your fault, right? Every day they probably pinned, Matthew Stafford against the wall in the locker room there and just pushed him further and further and said, it's not your fault.
He's just talking, he's just breaking down.
That movie is very much about my dog Skippy, though. He believed it was his fault, all of this nonsense that happened to him when he was in foster homes.
Oh, yeah. Why he was
poor mutt, yeah.
First got him.
Now he's a sweetheart. It's unbelievable. But he realized it's not his fault. Derek Carr, a Hall of Famer, if he wins with the New York Jets, possibly so. But that's the selling tool that they're using there, the dynamic in New York, that he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Somehow this got leaked out there that this was the message that the Jets had. I would think that would be a good spot for him, though. I mean, of all the possibilities that are out there, I mean, he's not going back to Las Vegas. We know that. They just let him go. Washington, I would think, was a much more suspect situation than the Jets, who did appear to be, I mean, some decent quarterback play away from being a very, very good team this year.
It's to me, it's if New Orleans is healthy and the Jets. That I mean,
two good spots, right? But New York, I mean, if you wanted to turn the whole image around, that you weren't a top-notch quarterback, you weren't a quarterback that was a franchise-type quarterback. I mean, he was in Vegas for 9 years, Derek Carr, and he had some, good moments. I mean, statistically, he's not terrible. And even if you just look and get an overall impression from his body of work, he wasn't bad, was he? Derek Carr, I mean, at one time he was a little suspect, but he kind of, sort of improved his game over the last 4 or 5 years, and you thought he was a viable guy. I don't know, how it fell apart so drastically this year, where they just threw in the towel on a guy. But, they've had tremendous uncertainty constantly on the coaching staff and especially in the front office.
I mean, he was there with fucking Mayock, and John Gruden got there and like a week later had the commander shit. Like the emails, that garbage. Then they have like...
How did those get leaked out and nobody else was ever mentioned? I mean, you don't think anybody else was involved in that?
Well, yes, obviously. Like,
how did Danny Boy, Dan Snyder, get down? And we'll have to ask John Feinstein about that. He hates Snyder, yeah.
He's a devious scumbag, and they have not only... That's what we learned. Not only they have skeletons, but they have skeletons and everyone else, and they compartmentalize it so they can pick and choose who they fuck.
Yeah. The league's pretty soft on Dan Snyder. You would have to say that he probably has pictures of everybody. No?
100%. Yeah. He said it. He's like, I do.
He threatened to expose all of these guys, and you notice they kind of backed off, even though he was now in agreement that maybe the best thing for him to do is to move on and just get out of this mess altogether with a big wad of cash. Not that he needs it. I mean, I'm sure he's very well off from, what is it, FedEx that he owns?
No, I don't know if he owns FedEx. He owns some shit.
FedEx? What wasn't that his ticket to Capital? FedEx?
FedEx?
Dan Snyder? Didn't they have a FedEx Stadium there? And,
FedEx was their sponsor. It's not anymore.
I thought he was involved with FedEx. All right. Also, okay, I like this guy, man. He has always done a good job everywhere, kind of quietly so. Nate McMillan, he gets fired from the Hawks yesterday. The Atlanta Hawks cut him loose. And Quinn Snyder, the former Duke star, and of course did very, very well as a head coach with Utah. Utah, right? Quinn Snyder. That's where his last stop was. Yeah,
he was really good and took Utah to a nice place. Yes.
Yeah, and he's got that greased hair thing. Kind of a weird look, not a Pat Riley look, but he's got that one little curl coming out. But seems to be a very competent coach and very astute at the game of basketball. Although I always liked McMillan. He's at 500, I think, with the Hawks this year, and gets canned. The real race, though, in the NBA is not for the NBA championship this year. It's for last place. What's the kid's name that everybody wants? He's like 7'4" and he shoots threes.
I don't know.
Like he was Pete Maravich.
Wembanyama.
What?
Wembanyama. Yeah, something of that nature. Or it might be Wembanyama. I don't know. It's spelled.
Wembanyama.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
pronounced. Anybody who can pronounce that, give us a call.
No one ever pronounces it. They call him Wemby. And I'm like, I feel weird.
Wemby? Oh, it's like Antetokounmpo.
Oh, yeah. They call him Wemby. Wemby. Their nickname for him. I feel weird calling a grown man Wemby. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, the race is on for Wemby. And the Houston Rockets, appear to have the edge there with 13 victories on the season from like 60 games. There are a couple of games ahead in the race, the Wemby race from Detroit. There are a couple of games ahead of the Detroit Pistons, who, when we talked to Grant Long, how some franchises are just, perpetually and perennially bad. It's incredible. When rewarded, all of the gifts that you could possibly get and every possible asset that you could accumulate with number one picks. And then how does it happen that you can have the number one, number two, number three pick year after year after year and end up doing nothing? Zero.
Yep.
Now, there's some years maybe, it's not the greatest selection. You don't have a Wemby. You don't have a LeBron James. You don't have, two guys that could, well, I don't
John
know.
Morant.
Sam Bowie shouldn't have gone ahead of Michael Jordan, but you couldn't argue with Elijah Wan. I mean,
Yep.
not every draft has a couple of guys that are going to be franchise generational type players in it.
Luka.
Yeah,
Look at a Luka
but
now.
well, look, I mean, and that trade, look, came back to haunt guys years after the fact, right?
Yep.
Because Nate McMillan wasn't the coach there when they made that Luka Doncic for Trae Young trade, but Trae Young's kind of bizarre. If he's on your team at the park, are you not getting a little bit, like, hey, Trey, why don't you try working the ball one time? Work it. When he stops and pops from like 40, he's not as accurate as Steph Curry. I mean, I cringe sometimes at the shots this guy takes. Do you? I mean, he's an excellent ball player. There's no question. I don't think you can question that he has talent.
He's fun. He's a good player. He wasn't a bust.
Yeah.
The trade from the beginning to now, it's clear one guy's a top 5 to now top 3 player.
Yes.
As an all-star. Like, which one would you rather have?
Although Trae Young did take the Hawks into the finals, right?
Conference finals. They both
conference finals.
The same distance. Both went the conference finals, and I think went 5 or 6 games. The Mavs did the same thing. But every year, Luka's in the MVP balloting, and Trae Young.
I know, yeah. I mean, if you had a choice, I mean, and you could pick now, obviously you're taking Luka Doncic over Trae Young, who now, this year anyway, became a little bit of a coach killer. Because he's not having a great year, although statistically, you look, he's among leading scorers, and it does dish off. I think, he's close to 9 assists a game or 10, which is an outrageously good number. League leading type of numbers, but nonetheless, I mean, he does it. He has so many plays where they come down the court and nothing happens, and you're thinking that's all Trae Young.
Yep.
And the other 4 guys, I mean, you know how it is. If you never get a chance to do anything, you're running around like a maniac. You're trying to come off screens on the baseline. You're running into the corner. You're standing there for your wide open shot. You don't get the ball. The guy looks at you and then goes into the paint and dribbles in between 3 guys, loses the ball, and it goes the other way for a fast break. After a while, you start getting frustrated.
I mean,
and the team becomes sort of dissipates into a bunch of sulkers and Trae Young, and that's it.
Looking at his stat line, the problem is, you said it. He likes to shoot a lot of threes, and he's only shooting 32%. Like, that's pathetic.
Right, which is a losing number from 3-point range.
That's bad.
Because to make it worth it, I mean, to break even on threes, you have to shoot 33% from the field.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's the equivalent of shooting 50% from 2-point range, which I consider to be the Mendoza line there. That's the barometer. It's not the Mendoza line, but that should be the standard that people look to.
But you don't want the standard. And a guy like Steph, it shoots almost 50%. Like, a guy like him should be around the 38 to 40%, if not higher. Like, if you're going to,
especially if you liberally chuck these things from the Coke machine, where it's just impossible. And in situations where it's uncalled for, where you're only 10 seconds into the shot clock and you're trailing by 7 points, and the guy comes down and because he's not being guarded 45 feet from the basket, goes ahead and hoists one. Exactly. And he has the definition of the line drive brick that we were talking about yesterday on the program, where if his shot is off, it's line drive brick.
Yep.
I mean, you got to call it out there. I don't know. Does he yell brick when he shoots these?
That'd be great if you just hear him yelling brick.
Absolutely. Like heaves. That's not even a shot. That's a heave when you're out that far. Anyway, so McMillan goes down, and the Trae Young deal, again, comes into the spotlight there because you're thinking, what if they had just taken Luka Doncic? Everybody gets home free. That would have been great. I looked into a couple of things with the local teams here, and just a couple of minutes, we'll talk about the Miami Dolphins with Chris Perkins going to join us here on the show. The Panthers have moved into the 8th spot. They're now in a playoff position. They would have become, I think, there have only been 5 teams previously that led the league and won the, what is that, the President's Trophy to give away?
Yeah, President's Cup, yeah.
Okay, for being the best team in the league the previous year that failed to make the playoffs in the subsequent season. The Panthers were about to fall into that really
they're playing well, too.
That's category.
They're now not only there, but they're, what do they call it? Streaking. So
playing a little better, yeah.
Never know. I mean, how much games are left? So there's still 20 games
22
left.
games left. Every game is a playoff game.
Yeah.
That's the way, that's the way they're trying to characterize it. Every game left is a playoff game. They're one back of the Islanders
to
move into 7th. They're 2 ahead of Detroit, 1 up on Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
3 up on Washington, and 4 up on Buffalo. So those are the teams to watch there
Yeah.
as you come down the stretch.
And there's a gulf between the next group and them. For them to catch the next group may be tough.
And the Heat now in the 7th position.
That's annoying.
Which that's not going to be good enough to get out of the first round. That definitely won't be good enough.
No, to have to play a play-in and then play a first round, I don't see them doing that. So
no, they'll be lucky to get out of the play-in at that point.
No, you got to get to this. To me, they got to get to the 5th spot with the Nets doing what the Nets did. Like, there's no reason why they shouldn't be the 5th seed.
Well, you never know. They are 2.5 behind Brooklyn for 5th. Oh no, they're half behind the Knicks for 6th.
Yes.
And 2.5 behind Brooklyn for 5th. Now, Brooklyn, as you said, it's possible that they fall, but they've won games with this new configuration.
They have.
Established new stars. Maybe, it's addition by subtraction sometimes.
We'll see.
Where what team was it that got decimated and then in the NBA? They traded off all of their big stars, and then they went on a run after that. And actually were playing some pretty good basketball for a while. I mean, I guess you could say this happened. I remember when the Knicks had the big run. But with who was the Chinese guy that went to Harvard there?
Oh, Jeremy Lin.
Jeremy Lin, yeah. Remember
Chinese,
that?
By the way, that's not a slur. He was actually Chinese.
He was a Chinese guy, yeah.
He was. Jeremy Lin, yeah. But remember, they had Carmelo. Oh, yeah, because that's what it was.
Yeah, Carmelo was out, the big star, and all of a sudden they got a bunch of bag ladies and schleps, a guy you never even heard of, and the guy wins over the entire Big Apple. And they prosper. There was a team though a few years ago, and I'm blanking on it, but they lost virtually everybody, and then they went on a nice run.
It happens.
Yeah. It's possible.
I just don't know if it's sustainable. Like Cam Thomas is already falling back to earth.
Well, they put him on the bench. I mean, which is kind of interesting since he showed that he could be a top-notch scorer.
He said something stupid and he got in trouble. I look. There's going to be ball dispersion. There's going to be, more team and all that other jazz. So I think they'll be good for a little bit. I feel like at some point the term regressing to the mean will happen. That's what I think. We'll see.
It would make sense, right? I mean, after they based everything on a completely different principle, that they would struggle a little bit. But the Heat haven't necessarily shown that they can capitalize on that by getting on a long, sustained winning run. And I'm not sure that Kevin Love necessarily upgraded them, from a 5th, 6th sort of schlepper playoff position to anything elite. And I do believe that they would get clobbered by any of the top 3 teams in the postseason.
Yeah, look, the Sixers aren't going to lose to them again. The Sixers were really pissed at how Sixers won last year. So the one team that they would maybe have a chance against is the Sixers, and then I don't think they'd even play the Sixers, but if they did, they wouldn't beat them.
All right, hey, we're just a couple of nights away from El Boxeo there at Hialeah Park. Friday night's going to be the big night. I'm looking at the weather forecast because I'm always rooting for my guys at Hialeah Park, and the last thing you want it to do is rain when you have an outdoor event. Now, it's possible. We are in South Florida. I mean, it could come out of nowhere, literally, and start pouring. I mean, that's happened to me. Although with, the climate change and everything, I don't think it happens as much. Those isolated thunderstorms that come out of nowhere, Lubie. I'll never forget a true story. When I originally moved here, I had an MGB convertible, and I parked my car I was living in Coconut Grove, and I parked my car in front of this newsstand to run in and buy a racing form and a Miami News, which was my favorite publication at the time of the local newspapers because they had a lot of degenerate leanings. And they had some good writers there. Tom Jicko was there. I mean, handicapping dog racing. They had 3 pages of dog racing handicapping.
That's so crazy.
How great is that?
That's crazy.
Even if you were like with PETA, you were like, look at the sports section. They have 3 pages of dog racing. Wrote about the horses. I mean, boxing with Tom Archdeacon. Marty Klinkenberg was an excellent writer. Still going strong. One of the few guys left carrying the journalistic flag there in print journalism. Marty Klinkenberg. I don't know. You probably never met him because he was long gone by the time you got here. I mean, by the time you were cognizant of this thing.
Yes.
But he's writing, I believe, he covers the Maple Leafs for the Toronto, what is that, the Toronto Star? Okay. Is that the name of the paper there? A very distinguished, Canadian newspaper. And I believe he's covering the Toronto Maple Leafs, which you couldn't have a bigger job. I mean, that would be like getting the Yankees beat for the New York Times or something. Yeah.
Toronto Star or Toronto Sun?
One of those 2. Which one's the bigger one? I think he's with it.
The Star, yeah, I think the Star.
Anyway, so I pull up to this newsstand and I'm going in there literally, Lubie, for not even 5 minutes, right? I think there was one lady in front of me buying some cigarettes and a pack of baseball cards, and I'm picking up the racing phone of Miami News. And when I come out, bright sunshine. When I go in, when I come out, my car had like an inch deep of water in it, just out of nowhere.
It's Florida.
These flash, but I mean that was more frequent back in the day. Have you noticed a change there?
Yes.
The atmosphere, the ozone layer, something's up, man. Well, we don't have those kind of blinding rainstorms like we used to.
No, it lingers a lot more than it's more northeast than it used to be.
Yeah. Remember, you would your windshield would be opaque, and you were on 95 going 70 miles an hour, and you're thinking, why am I driving this car? I can't see. Fucking Stevie Wonder. I mean, it was unbelievable. But anyway, so we're rooting for no intervention of any kind of foul weather there on Friday night, and the forecast is for dry as a bone, man, a veritable desert.
Nice.
We're talking about a martini that you could blow the dust off. I want that pretty dry. So it's going to be a great night, and I took a walk of life the other night. I do it sometimes under the cover of darkness. There, I'll leave like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and it could not be more refreshing than to be outside. We were out last night. I went to a comedy show, believe it or not, a quasi comedy show at Brews Room. It was like I guess they have trivia night on Monday and comedy on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird, man. They had like 10 or 12 comedians. They all got like 5 minutes a pop. And I don't know that any of them blew me away because I can't remember any of the guys. But they were all nice guys trying, I guess, just getting started in a comedy business. Not all of them, caught everybody's attention. But the audience was very willing to laugh at virtually anything. So that kind of made it good. Nothing worse, right? You're a comedian and everything you're saying is just bombing. And you could see the sweat start to formulate on the guy's forehead as, he figured those 3 minutes must have seemed like from here to eternity. Right, he may as well have, just taken off his clothes and hope he could get a laugh by dropping his pants. That would have been about it. Anyway, we're gonna have a great time though. You won't have to worry about it, getting any laughs because you're gonna get action at Hialeah Park. The boxing is gonna be sensational, and
Yes,
really excited about the card there. I've been seeing a lot of publicity about it on social media, and our man John Hernandez. And if you can get a ticket for the fights, get it at HialeahPark.com. I don't believe they're sold out yet because I think they could accommodate, like even a certain amount of walk-ups. And they plan it that way because people might be hanging around the casino there and say, "Hey, let's go to the fights." If you've never been, it's a totally different dynamic. Catching live boxing versus as exciting as it can be on TV. I mean, it's exponentially better if you see it live. Even a lousy match is kind of interesting when you're watching it live, as opposed to on TV. You're saying, "What is this drudgery? When is somebody going to throw a punch?"
Oh, no.
But the whole live atmosphere and the vibe there is just fantastic. So it's a great experience, and you've got the casino open, all the dining opportunities that you have there. Great food and drink all over the place, including right there ringside and in the stands. And they're not robbing you. They don't jack the prices there. They don't all of a sudden think like, "Hey, this is Yankee Stadium," even though it's the Yankee Stadium at Thoroughbred Racing, Hialeah Park. And, a great venue for boxing. Friday night, HialeahPark.com. That's where you get your tickets, and going to be a whole lot of fun. So hope to see you there. All right, coming back with Chris Perkins. He's going to join us here. And then Tony Segreto goes old school. And we'll go come back with more in a moment on that.
The time.
7:49.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, "Where should we go and eat tonight?"
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
This is another guy that I think is doing exactly what he set out to do. I bet if you go back to his elementary school yearbook, if they had one, not only was the editor and publisher, but he probably made the statement, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to be the #1 featured guy on the Miami Dolphins beat after a sensational career with a very diverse background in various sports coverage aspects, but with the Sun Sentinel and many other newspapers. The great Chris Perkins joins us here on the show. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Defo, at my age, I think my yearbook was done with a piece of granite and a chisel, right? That's how far back my yearbook goes.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Good to have you with us here on the Defo Show here on South Florida Live. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubitz. And welcoming to the show the author of that, bold admission of going back in time there to the Mark 7 production days of Dragnet when they just hammered that Mark 7 in, and chiseled it right into some stone. The great Chris Perkins joins us here on the show. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing good. Mark 7, that is a nice recollection right there. That's very good, man. You're sharp. You're sharp.
They dominated, television production in the early days of TV. I mean, they had Dragnet, and I think one other show might have been 20 Mule Team Borax, whatever that was. Some show with like Andy Devine. I'm not sure, but they pretty much produced everything. But yeah, I remember the sweaty hand with the sledgehammer, the little sledgehammer.
Right. Yeah.
Would impress.
And measure off. Right.
Yeah. Mark 7 in there.
Then you did it. Right.
That was great. They literally hammered the point home. All right. Vic Fangio, is he still the defensive coordinator of the Dolphins, or did that story change again?
Right. Hey, this isn't the offensive line coach. Fangio is going to stay for a couple of years, right? The offensive line, they had like 9 in the last 9 years offensive line. But Fangio, I'll say this about Fangio. One thing that I did like about him is he seems very well-grounded. And, when he was asked what kind of defense he wants to run, he said, I've got to look at my talent first. And,
nice.
and I like that. It's not a guy who says, I've got a system and these guys get into it. It sounds like a very open-minded approach of, I've got an idea what I want to do, but let's see if these guys are capable of executing it. So right off the bat, I like the feeling that I got from him. And I'll damage my credibility by saying I like the feeling I got from Al Golden after his first.
We liked him too, actually.
Seemed like a good guy, yeah.
And we liked him early on too. We were stupid.
That orange tie, man, he stood out.
The tough temple exterior. Yeah.
People that were mocking that, hire and saying, well, what's he done, man? He barely won a temple.
Very right.
It turned out to be right, We always want to believe, Chris, though. We're with you. We wanted to believe it was going to work out because we were tired of it not working out, much like the case with the Dolphins.
Well, Perk, and along those lines, in the positive afterglow of what was a press conference, and like Defo says, no coach after recruiting classes are like, yeah, it's an okay class. Like the first presser is never going to be negative.
Right.
But I did like, and along with what you said, usually coaches don't admit their openness. Like the fact that he said, yeah, I took a year off, set up a layer, and just watched film, meaning he really didn't take a year off. But I took that year to learn what other people were doing, to learn how the game was, because he's been a defensive coordinator, I didn't realize, for like 30 or 40 years. It's like insane. Yeah. And I wanted to see how the game is now. And I wanted to learn some new things. And I learned a lot. I thought, wow, good for him, because the great coaches, that's what makes them great, is that they're willing to be fluid. They're willing to grow. They're willing to go with the times. And I'm like, that's interesting. Like this, he's known as his old-minded coach, but it's like, okay, that's what the Dolphins need. A guy that's trying to take the talent and go to another level.
Yeah, no, I agree, and yes, again, that's what I liked about Fangio is what he said at that press conference, and there were a couple other things that he said. One thing that that was really intriguing was that he said he's come up with a couple of new coverages that he would like to try out, and I was kicked off to that by Travis Wingfield of Dolphins.com, who interviewed Fangio, for the team website. And he said, hey, Fangio mentioned that he's got a couple of new coverages. Asked him at the press conference. I played golf with Travis the day before the press conference, and so he tipped me off to that. And so, but I would like to see, like you said, Lubie, a guy who sits back and kind of observes. It at least gives the impression that this guy is full of wisdom and that this guy is open-minded and that he knows what he's doing. So we'll see, but but he did say that he's got a couple of new coverages that he would like to try, and I have no idea what that means. Like if a coach has got some new passing game aspect, I would have no idea what it means, but I'm a little excited by it. So we'll see.
Chris Perkins, our guest here, of course, covers the Dolphins for the South Florida Sun Sentinel here on the Defo Show. All right, I was inclined to send, I still have some old videos of the Three Stooges, and I have some Jerry Lewis stuff. I was going to send it to the Dolphin film guy so he could demonstrate to Tua Tagovailoa how to fall properly. There was also a Jake LaMotta tape, and I think we even had the second Liston Ali fight.
Wepner
showing you how to go down, how to take a dive. It's weird that would be the most critical thing that a quarterback could pick up.
I love Liston. That's true.
Yeah, no, it's but you know what, and Tua, they said they were going to teach Tua how to fall. Mike McDaniel said that, and then Tua came out and said he'll be taking some judo lessons. But again, the falls that Tua took, they weren't like, I don't know how you could teach him to avoid falling the way he fell. The Buffalo game, he got shoved. And I don't know how you avoid that. The Cincinnati game, he got flung down. The Green Bay game, he got tackled from behind. If you remember, he threw a pass. He got tackled from behind, and then he twisted while he was being taken to the ground, and he hit the back of his head. So, look, I'm not taking the Dolphins to task or ridiculing them or belittling them. You have to try to do something with Tua, right? With these concussions, and that seems like a very logical thing to do. It's just after looking at those falls, I'm not sure that there's anything that Tua could have done differently, and I might be totally wrong, but we'll see how the judo lessons and if that pays off. But they just seem to be kind of freakish things. I don't know why he fell the way he fell, especially the Green Bay one when he got tackled from behind. But we'll see if the judo lessons work, and we'll see if the concussion thing tails off. But because if that thing doesn't tail off, then the Dolphins are in a world of hurt because they're going to have to start from zero with the quarterback situation.
Well, and you covered your share of boxing back in the day, as I recall, Chris, and did a fine job with that. And it was always concerning. Obviously, more so than just the plain knockout itself. When you saw a fighter go down and his head would bounce off the canvas, and then you would look, and only may he rest in peace. Steve Smoger would let the fight go on after that, but. And that seems to be, what's afflicted too. I mean, his head just keeps bouncing off the ground there, like he just got flattened by a right hook.
Right, exactly, and that's the big thing to me is that again, if he had taken some blindside hit and you said, well, we got to fix the right tackle situation. Okay, that's one thing, but again, Matt Milano shoved him, like he put his hands on onto his shoulders and shoved them backward, and I'm not sure that you can. You can teach somebody how not to have their head fall back in that case. And then, again, you got flung down against Cincinnati. Green Bay, you got tackled from behind. We'll see.
Yeah, trying to practice against that.
That's for Tua, but yeah, right, correct. they seem kind of very freakish. Like, you know, it just happened that way. And I don't know how you prevent something that seems so random. That's what I'm saying.
All right, just a quick thought. I mean, you have the combine upcoming. You have the draft, obviously, coming up down the road as the next big events in the National Football League. There's free agency out there. And what is the most significant thing that the Miami Dolphins need to do in the next few months? And you know, how do you see them accomplishing that, if at all?
There's a few things. You know, I guess I don't know if number one is a backup quarterback or a running back, but you need to get the offense settled from that standpoint, and you need to figure out what you're going to do at offensive tackle. Austin Jackson and Teron Armstead. You know, Teron has missed an average of, I believe, 5.5 games. For each of the last 6 years. He's a 10-year veteran. You've got to figure he'll miss 5.5 again this year. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't mind asking Mike McDaniel if they would consider load management for Teron Armstead. And, you know, maybe he opens the season on the pup list and misses the first 4 games or something like that, because you need him at the end. But anyway, you've got to settle backup quarterback, running back, offensive tackle. At the right tackle, Austin Jackson only played 2 games last year. Then on the defensive side, you've got cornerback and you've got inside linebacker as 2 positions that need to be settled. So I think that free agency running back is probably your best shot, because you do have guys like Josh Jacobs, the leading rusher, and Tony Pollard from Dallas, even though he's coming off of that leg injury. You've got Miles Sanders and Philly. You've got a bunch of good running backs out there, and I think that's the best way to make Tua a better quarterback, is take some of the load off of him and allow somebody else to carry it. And to me, a running back is a natural place to start. So when you talk about big things coming up, Defo, free agency starts March 15th is when they can sign players. So about 3 weeks away. I'm going to be looking to see what they do in free agency at running back and at backup quarterback. And then probably the draft is where you take care of your offensive tackle situation. So to me, that's the immediate thing coming up. And then the combine starts on Tuesday. So I guess that's the first immediate thing. But as far as, you know, actual decisions being made, free agency on March 15th, and I'm going to see what they do at running back and backup quarterback.
Excellent as always, Chris. We can't thank you enough. Dynamite spot, and appreciate you taking time to be with us here on the Defo Show. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, we'll do it again, I'm sure, fellas.
Thanks, Perkins.
All right, sounds good. Chris Perkins, ladies and gentlemen. Very thorough there.
Yeah, he's great.
Knew all of the free agent running backs. I mean, this is kind of stuff that we can't conjure up anymore out of our own minds. So it's always good to get that kind of assistance here from knowledgeable guys that join us on the show. One of whom is about to come and join us. This guy, I mean, really is the embodiment of the history of South Florida sports and sports in general. Big Yankee fan, too, and should be excited, right? I mean, Tony's one of those guys with old school. Tony, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How was Atlantic City? Did you have fun?
I really did. I enjoyed it thoroughly. You know what? It's become one of my favorite spots for a variety of reasons. Easy to get to. The Alta Cocker, junket flight is fantastic, and then I feel young when I'm on that flight. I honestly feel like I've been reborn, because most of the people are in, needed wheelchair assistance, and a lot of them are on oxygen. But those people disperse immediately, and the care they take of the Mustang. This casino host is dynamite. I mean, literally, the room is spectacular, and then everything's kind of compact. So it was nice. It was kind of a food trip too. I ate at Moderano's and my other favorite place there, Chef Vola's, and I had a great time. Valentine's Day, that was good. Very romantic scene there in the restaurant. It was good, and we didn't lose any money, so that made it.
Yeah, that's the best part. Now, tell me, how do you fly there? You fly the main flight from Fort
Lauderdale?
Oh,
well, they have casino Caesar's Air, they call it. I mean, so they charter a flight. It's a Sun Country Airlines flying out of Palm Beach. So
you drive to Palm Beach and take the flight.
I go to Palm Beach, which, for the extra 15, 20 minutes.
Beautiful airport. Great airport.
So easy. I mean, the deal is just incredible. Yeah. So, and, you don't have to worry about like long lines and schlepping and bumping into people and, hassles parking. You pretty much park your car right where you're getting off the plane and getting on. and it's well run. They do a dynamite job. I mean, they want you coming to this casino. I don't know what kind of bread these other people bring, but they want you coming. Obviously, the plane is always full, and it's no hassle whatsoever. I mean,
And you
don't
stay
go
at
through
Caesars.
No, I stay in Harris.
Harris?
When I'm
Oh,
there.
Harris.
Yeah, Harris.
Harris is
Yeah.
better than Caesars.
Harris. And you like the hotel? It's a beautiful hotel.
I mean, honestly, Tony, the rooms is a nicer room as I've ever had anywhere. Unbelievable. And I've had some posh accommodations, obviously, as you're familiar with from being part of the media, where they want you to feel good about the place. No, but beautiful. I couldn't be any better.
I have to tell you, if I can't get a flight out of Fort Lauderdale,
yeah,
I'll go to Palm Beach. I will do everything I can do to avoid going to Miami.
Oh, Miami is a torture chamber. It really is.
It's just
it was bad back when I was doing a lot of traveling, and I would be very reluctant. Sometimes on an international flight, you have no choice.
Yeah,
but Fort Lauderdale is very convenient for me. It's become pretty much I mean. I don't know.
Too.
It's not obsolete in terms of what they have available, but parking's a hassle, and can be. And I never know if I'm in that hibiscus garage, which way to go, and then you end up turning the wrong way, and you're like walking on the tarmac with your bag, and you're like thinking, "Wait a minute, planes are taking off here. What the hell am I doing out here?"
Yeah. That's why I used to take my car and valet park it in Fort Lauderdale.
All right,
bring it up to the ramp, and then I just said, you know what? It's costing me this much to park it. Why don't I just have somebody pick me up?
You could take a limo, and it's cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. And take me and pick me up on the way back. I don't have to worry about it if if I'm late, whatever. It's just much easier that way.
No doubt. I used to have some trade out from advertising with the car service, and they were great, terrific.
Yeah.
Larry's limousine, it was called, and it was great because I don't know, I had like an enormous amount of capital with these guys, or at least enough to take care of me for like many years, where I didn't have to ever drive to an airport or anything like that. Very much the way to go.
That's amazing.
Yeah, very much the way to go. Good people.
Lubie, good morning. How are you this morning?
I am well, sir. Good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Are you excited about Florida State's football spring practice?
Sure. Not in April. Like, I know they're all excited because they know the date, but I don't know. I those games, it's like the inter squad. The inter squad always confuse the crap out of me because I'm like, if the offense does well, that means the defense sucks, and if the defense does well, that means the offense. Like, I never know how to root for my team against my team. Like, people love that crap. It just my brain short circuits. I'm just yelling the whole time. It's like I can't. The spring games annoy me, to be brutally honest.
I thought of you guys this past weekend because it was the big Clearwater tournament for softball, and Rose and I obviously all gravitated to Florida State.
Wow.
Florida State called my daughter back for that weekend, so
Nice.
she went in. She went down to Clearwater, and it was fun to watch the girls back in action. And some of these teams are just, I mean, between Florida State and Alabama, I mean, it's remarkable to watch these girls play. I mean, just even better than you remembered. So it was a fun weekend to watch.
East Coast or West Coast? Where are you going for your girls or women's softball in college? Who has the better teams? East Coast or West Coast, including the South here, which obviously
it depends on the day. I mean, there are some days that Washington is just spectacular.
UCLA is good.
Yeah, UCLA is great. Oklahoma. I mean, that's not far west.
Oklahoma. Yeah,
Oklahoma
no, they're dynamite.
Right? I mean, their coach was the first one in college softball to earn over $1 million.
Wow.
But then you come south, man, and you got between Florida State and Alabama, and the Gators have a history. You've got great. I mean, this Clearwater tournament had Florida State, Alabama, UCLA. I mean, just to mention, it was remarkable. I mean,
I think I saw some of that.
Yeah, every team was ranked. I mean, it was fun to watch, and to see the crowds. My goodness gracious, they were standing room only. It was remarkable.
Right,
How that sport has grown, and now making money for universities, which is no one would have ever guessed that. None.
All right, we're going to go old school with Tony Segreto. That's just a little taste. Tony Segreto brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. That's coming up in just a moment here. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. We always like to get in a plug for the Jimmer. We're going to be getting down there. I believe Lubie is still working on the specifics of Jimmy, but we want Jimmy to be there, obviously.
You want me to help you with this?
You've seen more of Jimmy than we have.
What's the holdup? Tell me what the whole is. It Jimmy? Is it the?
Yes.
Is
we don't want to go there without Jimmy. The point of going down there, we can go down there any weekend. They told us they'd take care of us. It'd be great. The point is that we were spoiled. We got Jimmy for an hour on air, and it was great. So we don't want to go again and not do that. So yes, it's Jimmy having time to sit with us in the morning and do our show with us. Yes.
Put in a word for us, Tony.
So if you can do something, that'd be great. Because
it doesn't matter what day of the week or whatever.
Well, we'll go down there anytime. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, the way we're doing stuff now, we can do every show. Yes,
yeah,
it can be anytime.
It's all about getting Jimmy there for the.
Mayo City would come. Yes, it can be anytime.
Okay, are you sure the Big Chill? Does the Big Chill have good enough Wi-Fi where we can do this with?
Oh
I have a hotspot now. We can do a show from anywhere on the planet, and we're good.
On the planet.
From what I know, because 5G is
on the planet
or 4G. Yes, we could do a show anywhere right now. That's
cool.
That's our setup. Yes,
on the planet. I'm impressed.
With Jimmy Johnson.
This is big time, man. This is big time.
It's the new media. We were
crazy.
Too soon, way before our time. Tony. Imagine now where you could own your own television station without having $2 in your pocket. All right, we're going to come back with more. Tony, don't forget about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, though. It's a great place to, if you're heading
the place is fantastic.
Into the Keys. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
You know, the beauty of it is it's really early into the Keys, so you're not battling a whole ton of traffic.
Yeah, the first thing you see. Yeah.
Yep.
As soon as you get off that little road there, where you're wondering how much longer.
Yeah.
But it's only like about a 20-mile schlep from Florida City, something like that. Is that right? Maybe even less. And then bingo, you're right there on the right side.
And on the way back, you and God, I hope the mother and father are well. But the historical Nosbury Farms. And
what kind of a weird story was that?
The tragedy that just happened there, and we pray for the mom and dad, and the mom's, I guess, still in critical condition. But make a stop there, and you can make a donation to help them, and you can also get their famous baked goods and their sticky buns and everything that Nosbury Farms.
The people line up like 1,000 deep for that, right?
It's remarkable. Have you ever been there?
I want to say yes, but I'm going to say no.
Their baked goods are legendary down there.
How long? They've been around like 100 years, right?
Yeah, at least 100 years.
Maybe when I first, was here in South Florida, I might have experienced it, but I don't really recall.
Yeah, it's like where my wife is, Bob Ross, New River Groves, where they make the famous key lime pie. I mean, the place has been there 100 years. I mean, it's just
some great places there. Yeah. You get unique stuff. It's fantastic. Well, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill is one of them. I know a lot of people, think, hey, I got to get some conch fritters at Alabama Jack's. Nothing against a traditional place like that, but Jimmy's got them smoked. I mean, with the variety that he puts out there. And you weren't tempted, though, Tony? I mean, to say, hey, Jimmy, how about we have a couple of slices of the Italian fisherman? No?
Jimmy wasn't with us at lunch.
Oh, okay.
So it was
you didn't think about the crew there and say, listen, guys.
They were all into there. We got the loaded nachos to start. And once you have those.
Yeah, that's a meal.
Yeah.
You don't need much else.
It's like, hey, what are you going to do? First of all, they're delicious. And then you have the sodium attack. The sodium bomb.
Yeah.
And it's you drive home. I swear, I had this great lunch, right? We started with that. They had conch fritters sent out, all of this stuff. And then you realize you've got to because I live in Broward, I had like a 4-hour ride home.
Oh,
and I am looking, and it's 5:00 in the afternoon. So my first, what I'm looking for is either Cuban coffee or Starbucks, because I'm like already, my stomach is like, okay, I'm going, you're ready to go take a nap.
Yep, knocks you out.
Yeah, tough to eat nachos in a car. That would be one of the more difficult things.
Well, thank God we didn't. We weren't in the car. We were at the restaurant. Yeah, nachos in the car.
Nachos in a car never works, right? No matter how careful you are, the first drop of chili hits your shirt just as you pick up the first chip.
Yeah, but what's funny is we'd be on the road, right? When my son and daughter would be with me when we drive Vermont before they started their jobs, and we'd stop at Chipotle for lunch, and they would always get extra bags of chips, and we wouldn't be done with lunch 20 minutes, and those extra bag of chips are being passed around the car. It's
Of course.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the truth is, we're always hungry, or always have the capacity to eat. All right, we're going to come back with more, and hopefully be joined by Ed Garcia, Texas Roadhouse Restaurant. Speaking of eating, and there's some absolutely, high accolades being doled out for Texas Roadhouse in this little comparison I was reading about, Tony. We'll tell out about that between Texas Roadhouse and Outback Steakhouse.
Yeah, I think Ed's flying. Isn't Ed flying today?
Oh, he's flying. Okay, so
I still want to hear the story.
All right, well, we'll come back with that and talk a little bit about Texas Roadhouse. Plus, I mean, a variety of things that I have on my mind about old school examination, going back through the history of Miami sports, including Doral. We have the Honda Classic going this week. And I know you covered a lot of these golf tournaments, Tony, and there are a lot of memories taken away from that. So we have some stories to tell, and we'll come back and do that in a moment. Now that
the time,
it's 8:15. Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
what we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Welcome back to the show. A little old school getting underway here with Tony Segreto, the great Tony Segreto. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubie Lubitz. We mentioned Ed Garcia, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. So here's what happens. I guess I saw this on either Facebook or some other internet site where somebody had undertaken a study comparing chain restaurants. And they were comparing Outback Steakhouse, which I used to like a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
20 years
downhill, but to Texas Roadhouse. And wow, I mean, you talk about literally like smoked meat. I mean, it was a smoke job, Tony.
Really?
And this was, from independent reporting, and they just found everything at Texas Roadhouse to be vastly superior: the service, quality of the meat, the value, the variety that they had, the vibe, the way the restaurant was run overall. I mean, unbelievable glowing praise for Texas Roadhouse restaurants. So we always talk about their greatness, but it's not like it's unique to us. I mean, other people are becoming aware of it, even if they're doing it as some kind of scientific study.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And when we talk about it a little bit later. That's one of the things I was going to talk about today with Ed is, we talk about the food all the time, but it's the feeling you have there, the culture, the way they make you feel, the way they treat you. They dote on you. They make you feel like you're the king, queen, and first family of the restaurant when you walk in.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable culture and how they do it, and credit to what they've done in the past and how they continue to maintain that strong foundation that they built.
Well, and too, when people are, I mean, absolutely like getting face raked for $70 steaks, you know,
Oh,
in diners.
Crazy. It's crazy.
And you go to Texas Roadhouse, and the same steak is like $28. You're thinking,
Less.
yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, maybe even less.
They opened up a new Mediterranean restaurant here in Davie, which is excellent. It's
Oh, yeah?
excellent. And we, you know, right, Roseanne, even though we're 100%, you know, we've done all that DNA. Our Italian roots go, you know, 5-6 generations back. Roseanne, having been born right outside of Detroit, you know, the Mediterranean influence and the Lebanese and Greek influence outside of Detroit for food is remarkable. I mean, it's just incredible. So to find a good Lebanese Mediterranean restaurant is not easy to find. But what I'm about to say is, first of all, the food is excellent. But you know, you start getting, you know, main courses. It was just the two of us we took out, and it was like $90. It's like, how in the world did that happen? Now it was our fault because we ordered way too much food. And I'm not suggesting that they're expensive, because I don't want to, because if anything, people should know about this place. It's really, really good. But the fact is, it was still $90. It was like, oh my goodness gracious! I could have driven to Miramar, got my Texas Roadhouse, which we were talking about, for like half of that.
Yeah. No, it's amazing how they're able to maintain that level of quality and that you know, price point. You know what Ed's talked about. You could tell, you know, just how well run of an organization it is. It's like you're always hoping that your local sports teams are well run organizations.
Yes.
And that brings us to you know, your Yankee hat and the Marlins, of course. Which you know, could you have had a more estranged, dysfunctional way of running an organization throughout its history? I mean, you had Wayne there at the beginning, and he had a level of sincerity about it, I believe. But
there's no
I
question
think
he did.
he got so sick of it, and you know, I've mentioned this story a few times because I kind of like saw it. I happened to be riding up in the elevator to that second level press box at what is now Hard Rock Stadium, which was housing the Marlins at the time. And who gets on the elevator but Wayne and his wife? And we're the only three people in the elevator. So I felt compelled, you know, I mean, I had contact with him, obviously, from a variety of sports coverages, you know, and so, you know, he kind of knew me by face. I don't know that he knew my name or anything. And I felt, you know, compelled to say something to him. So I just blurted out, hey, man, isn't this great? You know, because it was a playoff game against the San Francisco Giants on their run to the '97 World Championship. And he looked at me with like sort of a disdain, you know, as if I was Al Lombardo asking a question of Shula about covering a point spread at a press conference. And I said, a lot of empty seats. And I thought, wow, this guy's pretty sour about baseball at this point. And sure enough, I mean, it was, you know, then exacerbated by when he held that post, you know, season golf tournament. And like nobody showed up. He's paying these guys hundreds of millions of dollars. All of these burnt out veterans like Bobby Bonilla, and they wouldn't even show up and you know, show him the respect of showing up at the golf tournament. And bingo, you knew he was going to like just pull the carpet on the team and sell it.
And you were right. You know, I'm skewed because I still think of him as one of my dearest friends, and God rest his soul, along with Marty. He meant a lot to us, but he would. I have no question that what he did was sincere, and I think that some of the lieutenants that worked around him were doing things that he wasn't aware of, and you know, for whatever reason. But the mere fact is, you know, I what I have noticed about the Marlins now,
far and away the best owner they had, though.
Oh yeah, far and away the best owner they had. Far and away. I mean, unlimited funds, and did what they needed to do, and brought people in, and had great. I mean, think of the people he had from you know, just starting with Jim Leland, for goodness sake.
Dombrowski.
Yeah, obviously Dombrowski. But more people wear the logo. They love the Marlins logo than they do go to the games. There are more people with the merchandise than then go to the game. They don't even want to be a part of it. I saw somebody, and I really did do this yesterday. I saw someone at the gym with a Marlins hat. I said, "So, what do you think of the Marlins' chances?" He goes, "Oh, I don't care." He goes, I just like the hat. I mean, that's exactly what he said. I don't
nice
care.
Uniforms.
Yeah, they have nice uniforms, and I like the hat. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if I should do like a test and like ask 10 people and see what they respond, because I swear to you, that's exactly what he said. He was the nicest guy, young guy. I figured, baseball guy, had his Marlins hat on. I go, what do you think of the team? I don't care. I just like the hat.
Well, and it's hard to even know, what the team is, and we were talking with Dave Hyde yesterday on the program. He was on his way to spring training for the first full roster practice that they were holding, and that was an occasion that Lubie and I used to always go out and do a live radio show, and it was kind of cool because I'm still a baseball fan.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to throw in a towel on a game. I'll still watch it. I still follow it. I'm interested, in the statistics, but not so much the analytics. And still going to be among my favorite games to analyze and take a look at. Although not as familiar with the personnel, where we do have guys in their 40s that are still prominent, like Scherzer and Verlander at the top of the Mets rotation, which they think is going to take them to the World Championship. But it just never caught on in his town. Dave was saying that there was a very bleak outlook. I mean, you look at the National League East; they're unlikely to overtake the Mets, who have like a staggering $345 million payroll this year, with this Steve Cohn guy who was a fan and has the wherewithal to absorb whatever losses in red ink he's going to be swimming in, running the team the way he's doing it. But he doesn't care; he wants to win. And then you had the Phillies in the World Series last year. We know the Braves are always good because they figured it out. They were one of the few teams. The Astros and the Braves both tanked, lost 100 games like 5 years in a row, said what they were doing. They were going to build a farm system, the same plan that we get from every expansion team. And
they did it.
The Marlins turning over, but they've done it and sustained the level of excellence. Whereas
they were patient. That's
why
they were patient. They were able to somehow convince their fans. They sold them the goods, but the goods they sold them was the real deal. So I couldn't agree more. It's so funny. You talk about. I'm trying to fix my mic here. Talking about your love of baseball. The other night, Roseanne stumbled upon an interview with Ken Burns.
Okay,
he came out with a new book. So she says to me, "Anthony, come watch this." She said, "Have you ever seen this guy?" She didn't know. I go, "Ken Burns? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
She goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, "He's
that
like
Vietnam thing, man."
He is the most. Yeah, I said he is the most famous documentarian there is. I mean, that's who documentarians aspire to be.
The Citizen Kane of documentaries.
She said, I said, yeah. She said, does Sam know about him? I go, yes, because our daughter loves doing documentaries.
Yeah.
So I said, his very first documentary, I said, was on baseball.
Yeah.
I said, and Sammy and I sat. I made her sit through it all. I go, you need to see everything he's got on documentaries. I said, I've seen 3 of them. And I saw baseball, I saw Vietnam, and I forget the other one at the moment, but it was just, phenomenal, just phenomenal. So she said, gosh, I'd love to see them. So I look them up, and little did I know, he's got like 30 of them. I mean, and just incredible. We bought the subscription, and now we're hooked. I said, well, you have to listen. At some point, you're going to have to watch baseball because it is. Have you seen it? You've seen.
I've seen the baseball one. Yeah, I remember being riveted to the Vietnam series.
Incredible. Yeah, Vietnam was just. It was absolutely compelling. It was one. You talk about
as well done as you could possibly make a film
my goodness,
of that type.
My goodness gracious!
Yeah.
I started watching The Address the other night. And it's interesting because it's based on the Gettysburg Address, but it's the stories about this school in this small town in Vermont that only has like 50 or 60 students, all of which are challenged in some form or fashion. And their main assignment is to learn and memorize and recite on stage in front of crowds the Gettysburg Address. It's very cool.
I got like the first line, 420 years ago.
Yeah. So anyway, just to your point, your love of baseball becomes even greater for those of you who have never seen it.
Oh, download hands.
I urge you, and mind you, you need to dedicate a couple hours. You don't have to do it all at one sitting because they're broken up into different parts. But it is worth the time and the effort.
Yeah, I would suggest too to anybody that's sort of lost, any portion of their passion for the game, start betting on baseball games, and that passion will come right back. Because I do enjoy, and fueled by my own desire for self sabotage, I naturally only play parlays when I bet baseball. At least two teams, and usually a two-teamer, a three-teamer, and maybe even extend it out to four. Because everybody knows what the outcome of these games are going to be, and it's very. I mean, it becomes very compelling to be sitting in a sports book, say in Atlantic City, and you have action on a bunch of baseball games, and now every pitch becomes just absolutely paramount importance.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we can get sports books down here. I was talking to Frank Fiore, our dear friend. He's got a big fight coming.
Yeah. Are you going to go down to the fights? We're trying to get tickets. So we lost touch with Frankie.
But we're talking about it, and I was saying, gosh, I wish we could get sportsbook down here. I truly do. I mean, what a great way to spend an afternoon. You go to Hialeah, you especially during football season or the Final Four.
And the Cuban fans, especially there, the Latin fans would love betting baseball games there in the casino.
Absolutely.
And watching them then, because it becomes a lot of fun if you're, just like watching a Super Bowl in Atlantic City. And that was interesting too, Tony, because they literally had brought in a stack of body bags. You would have thought COVID had just broken out again. And they had like refrigerator trucks for the Eagles fans to be placed in after this ball game was completed, which they thought they had in a bag at halftime. It was so crazy. Yeah.
I have to tell you, I heard yesterday, and it's funny because I kick myself. My children are so they're both bilingual. They both can speak Spanish beautifully.
Oh, I'm jealous.
And my dad, God bless my dad. My dad was able to obviously speak English language. He spoke Italian fluently, spoke Spanish fluently. And before he passed away, he started learning Chinese and he just had this ability.
It might have been an omen for the future.
Yeah, and I don't have that ability. I do if I'm around it enough. But anyway, yesterday I stopped at Vicky's Bakery.
Nice.
And there's one up here in Davie to get an afternoon espresso. And there are at least 4 elderly gentlemen outside, dominoes going, cigars in hand.
Nice.
And all speaking, their native language, their home language. But I hear them, and what they're discussing is baseball.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say the Hialeah fights.
No. And I'm sitting there, and I'm walking out, and I don't want to stare, but it's one of those classic moments where you want to take a photo of this group of men, stogies in hand, dominoes flapping, and they're discussing baseball. And with their espressos, it was classic. And it was, again, the charm of the game, the charm of hearing them speak about it. It's a much different charm than the other sports when you talk about the game. It's such a beautiful game.
Yeah, I'm not sure you get so much of that anymore. I was kind of shocked when I moved here in 82, I guess it was 81. And I thought, wow, and I had been used to covering the Dodgers and the Angels out in Los Angeles. I had done that quite frequently for, the different newspapers I worked for. And, I come here and I'm thinking, okay, so what's the baseball scene? This is going to be great. It's spring training. And actually, it was my first encounter with the late, great Sonny Hirsch, who I met when I went down. The Orioles were training at Bobby Maduro Stadium. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, this is cool, man. I'll go down there and get some interviews with the Oriole players and, see what this Florida Spring Training Grapefruit League is all about. And I went in there, and it was right out of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. What a dump. Exactly. I could not believe what a shithole this place was that the Orioles were training in. And I couldn't believe they even considered training there, which they quickly left after that. But I was surprised, and then I thought, well, maybe there'd be some interest in Florida State League baseball.
Again, it was a legendary. It's a legendary stadium with all the guys that have played there. But I agree with you. It's like, are you kidding me? But you know what?
It's broken glass in a parking lot. And you're watching like Jim Palmer pull up there, in his underwear.
Spring training was more successful than regular season baseball is here.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I was
successful.
talking with my buddy Ira, the Met fan, and he was talking about how his friend offered him, if he comes down to Port St. Lucie to come see a Met preseason game, exhibition game, $78 for the tickets. $78.
If you can get them,
Yeah.
it means it's remarkable. Absolutely remarkable.
For a spring training game where you're thinking, that these guys are going to schlep out there for like a third of an inning, and then, it's a bunch of guys with like triple numbers on their back, like number 116. Maybe you even see Tim Tebow getting like a couple of innings in the outfield.
I remember as a little boy, whether I was in New York at Yankee Stadium or down here at Little Yankee Stadium, standing in the parking lot, players' parking lot, pardon me, and waiting to get autographs, and how the guys were just great about it. There wasn't
spring training very loose
and just fantastic. And even there during the regular season, when I was still young enough to want autographs, that it was just it was great. Bucky and I still talk. What's wrong, Lubie?
No, nothing. No, it has nothing to do with you. My wife just opened my eyes to something I usually do every day and I didn't. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing.
Do we need to talk about it?
No,
I need to take a break here, Tom.
Maybe we should. I got to fix my blinds anyway. I keep getting.
You got some kind of bizarre lighting working there, Tony Segreto. Which
I don't know what I haven't
great.
changed. I haven't changed anything, but this is pretty cool. Psychedelic.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to talk to you about these golf tournaments too, because this is a big staple of the South Florida scene, and it was a totally different scene. It sort of had its elements in paradise. Because you didn't have the mainstream pro sports, but we always had like a great sports season around now with a lot of diverse stuff.
I mean, this was the buffer.
Yeah,
the golf tournaments were the segue between
Doral into the Honda. It's great
between football and baseball season, right?
Yeah,
so it was the great segue.
And spring training was a part of our South Florida culture.
Before Honda, it was Doral and the Jackie Gleason.
Inverary Classic. Yeah,
which,
I love that.
Which buried Honda. Honda really never. Honda moved in so. I mean, the Honda, if we look it up, probably played at 6 different golf courses.
I'm going to say, I'm going to say it's been 3. 3,
maybe more.
More.
I will take the over.
They went to that. I remember it was a big deal when they opened up this Mark McCumber designed course there. Heron Bay, it was called.
Yeah.
And Heron Bay was out there in the sticks, man. I mean, like alligators literally were crawling on the course because they always had that thing where they offered the media a chance to play the course, and in this case, it was at like some subsequent time. It wasn't even like the next day after the tournament. So I'm out there, and I knew the guy that was like the starter or something. I forget his name, but so he turned me and my friends on to a round of golf out there, and it was all sand traps and stuff, and the pros hated it. They moved, and then they moved to another course nearby, and I forget the name of that one. And then I think after that they ended up at PGA. But you know what? I mean, it was always the poor man, the redheaded stepchild to Doral.
It was.
Yeah. All right, we'll come back and talk about that. Tony's going to close his blinds. Lubie's going to take care of this incident with his wife.
Make the coffee, would you? Damn it!
What did you forget to do? Put out new kitty litter?
Forgot to make the coffee.
Every other day our sprinklers aren't on automatic timer, so I have to remember to turn those on. And
on your grass side?
And then my cat was a pain in my ass because I had to feed her, so I usually throw the coffee in that routine. And then she was being a special pain this morning, my cat, so I forgot about the coffee.
Remember when you dreamed about having a house with a lawn, and then
it's such a pain in the ass. The pool.
I know.
What do I have to do to get this right? I mean,
I loved it. I loved it when I had it, but boy, I don't miss it. It's funny too because I was
great at growing clover. Nobody was better.
We got a lot of land. We have a lot of land in Vermont, but I don't mind that one. I don't.
No, wilderness. That's your essence, Tony. That's great. All right,
let's
come
take
back.
A break.
Yeah, come back with more. You fixed the problem already. Yeah,
no,
come back with more in a moment.
It's going
in and out.
Now that.
What the heck?
Yeah.
All right.
Tell the sun to stay down. It's 8:39. Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine foods served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
By the way, you sound great. I don't know how good I sound, but you sound great.
You sound
great.
really good, Tony. Better than I've ever heard you before, really. Even when we were the regular radio gig there with Comrex and all the fancy equipment that we had. Lubie set this up last night with a bunch of tape, and he had a couple of paper clips here. Things are falling apart, and yet it sounds
some
brilliant.
bubble gum. I got it.
Yeah. But we couldn't be happier than to be doing this. No,
I'm honored.
I knew they were going to clobber everybody the rest of the way, so laying 30 didn't really hurt me that much. And then I did like, believe it or not, I used some Segreto logic and came up with Syracuse getting 6 in their ball game, and they managed to lose in overtime by 3, so we covered there.
Look at you.
Yeah,
I love Syracuse in that game. I truly love Syracuse.
I don't know how you could love them.
I
don't know about love.
You were such a degenerate.
Love is a strong word there, Tony.
Let's put it this way.
They lost to Florida State.
I know, but they caught me up even, so I'm happy.
Oh, very nice.
No response. No response. I'm not actually.
Well, I don't know. You're dealing with another bookmaker. I don't know.
Yeah, you're lying.
Category, Tony. When other guys are getting 3 points, you're getting 11. I mean, it's crazy.
I got in the Syracuse game. We're talking about 6. I got 15.
Exactly.
That's what I thought. Yeah, of course. It's like you've died and gone to heaven, and the rest of us are in there facing guys like Lipschitz every week with the usual demands. And make sure you're not late on Tuesday. It's like, shut up, Louie. You know what? I'm sick
you sound like
you, and I pay every week.
Defo and Lubie love kicking it old school with the legendary Tony Segreto. Big thanks to Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Along any kind of degenerate lines, I want to come back in the next life as Tony Segreto.
Honestly.
You live the greatest life, Tony, of anybody I know. Everybody else is miserable.
It's fun to be me.
Yeah, no, it's good. No, you had charm life for sure, man.
It's fun to be me.
All right, a couple of things. All right, we want to get into with Tony Segreto here, and we're doing a little old school. We might have to bail out a little early. I got some guy going to knock on my door at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, don't listen. You guys are already, Lubie's already one down with trouble.
Yeah.
You and Mustang.
Well, this I can't dodge, man. I mean, I had to pay $500 for this inspection that's coming up here, so I'm letting the guy in. And he'll probably look inside and go, "Okay, you're fine." That's
exactly.
They want you to pay up before they even show up. I mean, too. There's no mailing a guy a check. All right, John Jameson informs us, and it was the Mirasol Country Club after Heron Bay that was the home of the Honda Classic. And that was kind of off in the hinterlands also. And then he moved to PGA. And I think they kind of solidified themselves there at PGA. But it was always second fiddle to Doral. I don't know. I remember, I want to say this guy's name was Jim Kelly. He used to do a network radio broadcast on CBS.
Yep.
He was out of Philadelphia and had a national presence. I think, you would see him on national broadcasts also, maybe on games. He loved golf. So, and he actually had time. Imagine this, Tony, in a radio sportscast for the guy to go live to Doral and, have a stringer out there, like calling a putt.
Yeah.
If there was actually action when he threw it to you. And there was a couple of times, and this was one of my jobs as a stringer here. We used to go out. I was working at 940, was a news station. So the news outlets used to come to us to do their reporting. And I'm out there like calling a putt by like Raymond Floyd on this guy's radio show live. He go, okay, we'll go to Miami and Jeff DeForest. And I had to give it the old, well, he's got a twisting turn here. You can hear his knees knocking together. Raymond Floyd standing over this one for a lengthy period of time.
If he can
and it was great, man.
Yeah, he can get it through the windmill.
Yeah,
he'll be in great shape.
But I mean, there was, a kind of an elite feeling about this Doral tournament. It might have been the fifth major at that time.
It was considered the fifth major. It was a legendary course. You had every
Blue Monster, legendary.
Yeah,
right.
Every legendary player. I mean, think about it. It was Nicholas. It was Palmer. It was Tiger. It
Trevino.
was Player. It was Trevino. Just go down the list.
Johnny Miller out there.
Yeah, it was a who's who of golfers, and they were all great to deal with. I can remember sitting on the ninth hole.
I don't know about all great, Tony. All great to deal with.
I had never had a problem with a player. Never had any problem. I mean,
I've been blown off by a couple of golfers.
Like Jack and Ray would come off and they'd go, "Hey, Tone, how you doing?" And
Oh well, you're Segreto.
No, but it was great. I mean, it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So.
And I got blown off by a couple of golfers. I approached Calvin Pete once at the Honda Classic. It was a schmutzy day out, kind of questionable if they were even going to play. And the practice green was kind of getting mucky. And he was the only guy out there. This was like a practice green that was off the beaten path. And Pete's out there putting. And I'm thinking, okay, cool, man. Here's like a black golfer who's influential. I'll come in there and get like a real, sort of a sociological piece. I don't know if that's the right word, but, I'll get a piece about, what it's like to be a black golfer on a PGA Tour. I'll get this exclusive with Calvin Pete. I approached him and, sheepishly, I'm not one to like pounce on a guy, as Lubie will tell you. And, so I waited till he had like a moment there. He's like picking up some balls. Said, "Hey, Calvin, you got a minute?" He says, "Can't you see I'm working?" I'm like, what a dick. And then Monty... That was another famous incident when, you wouldn't have done this, Tony, because you have too much integrity to do something like this and ruin a guy's impression of what the business is all about right away before you get started. But I sent an intern, my friend Jim Greashopper, who's now made it big, so obviously it helped him, this experience. Monty, I just noticed on the board, had blown up to like an 84, and he was known to be an asshole anyway towards the press. I mean, he hated the American press because all Americans hated Monty for some reason. All right. And, they would constantly remind him that he never won a major event and that he was, I don't think he ever won a tournament on American soil to this day, unless he won on like the Champions Tour or something. But anyway, so I knew he had just shot an 84 and he's walking by where we have a radio location at the Honda Classic. And this was at PGA. And I told my intern, I said, hey, go see if he'll do like a few minutes on the radio. And we also know that he despised sports talk radio. Much like Raymond Floyd, I think, later came to, that sort of thinking. And this guy nearly got his head taken off. Jim Greashopper. I mean, literally, Monty, if he had a club in his hand, he would have hit him right in the skull. Just for even asking. Yeah. So, they weren't all accommodating. I mean, there's a lot of frustration among these guys for some reason.
I enjoyed Doral and Inverary so much.
Inverary was great too with the condos right there.
Inverary was the very first. We talk about careers, and I was so blessed and fortunate to be able to interview two sitting presidents. One of which was in the Oval Office, which is one of those moments where you'll always cherish.
Yeah.
But the very first one was President Ford when he was playing with Jackie and with Jack Nicklaus and Player. Wow. And it was on the first tee of the Pro-Am, and to be able to sit there and talk with all of
Big
these
Jack,
guys,
Gary Player.
Yeah, and talk with with the president, who at the time was infamous for how he would scatter the ball and hit people in the crowd. I mean, and he had fun with it. I mean, here's this guy, like him or dislike him. He's a football player at Michigan. He knew what athletics was all about, and got the joke. Understood the joke of how he was.
Didn't he kill somebody? I mean, like Don Cheney, Dick Cheney type, not Don Cheney, the basketball player. But didn't he line one into somebody's skull?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think he killed anybody.
We'll have to,
it never ceases to amaze me though that people trust even the pros out of a horrendous lie. And I was watching this tournament at Riviera, and they leave the guy in the smallest of gaps to shoot a ball through. This ball could go anywhere. And they're lined up like 50 yards down the path there from the deep rough.
Exactly. That's trust now.
Oh my God. They do this with celebrities, not realizing that,
No way.
we suck.
What I think is very funny, and I love it. I'm not being critical about it at all, is that these guys, especially the men, play with so much power. Incredible. So then they market the clubs saying, do you want to hit it as far as Tiger? Do you want to hit it as far as Jack? Then you have to buy this club.
No.
Sure.
And all of us are going, yeah. Hell yeah. Little do we know, we do not have the ability to hit it that far, regardless of whether we had a cannon or a golf club. It's not going to go that far. It's just not going to happen.
I got suckered into buying any number of expensive drivers. They were going for about $300 a pop back then, the high-end drivers.
Yeah.
And, after shanking a ball all around the course for, 12, 13 holes in a scramble, some guy hands you his new Yonex. Says, here, try this. So you finally connect. And you're like, wow, look at that. I mean, it's like when you hit one just absolutely, clean in baseball and you don't even feel it.
Yeah.
You're just like, this thing's going to travel forever. And then you go out and buy one and you go right back to duck hooking the ball into the little creek to the left there. So
the great Anthony Bruno, and I'm sorry to interrupt, the great Anthony Bruno from Runway 84.
Yeah.
He has
this
theory.
Good?
He goes, golf should be 12 holes.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to play 4 hours. 12 holes, you go in, you have a couple of cocktails, and you're done. He goes, to play 18 holes, he goes, I just don't do it anymore. He goes, it's drudgery.
It's fun if you can do it. I mean, if you have some game, and when you're playing like some, reasonably competent, style of golf where you're hitting most of the shots clean, it's a blast. But if you don't have the right form, it's very much like tennis. It's a game you could never excel at, never really be good at, never sustain any level of excellence or even competence if you don't have the right form. Eventually, you're going to fall apart.
Or you have a form that you can replicate.
No, I agree.
You can't have a baseball grip there and, go John Daly and grip it and rip it.
Yeah, if you're taking 120 shots or 110 shots, because that's what most of the high-handed
your hands are ringing after the thing's over. You got blisters everywhere. Your feet hurt.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
But, great game. And, I have very fond memories of covering golf down here, as I know you do.
And
there were some very, very accommodating and gracious people for the most part in the game, including my favorite was Freddie Couples.
Oh, my gosh. What a dreamboat. It was just an absolute dream. And you know what? Doral, what I remember about Doral is the people there always treated the media so well.
Oh, yeah.
You had great
food, all kinds of stuff.
You had your special media tent for food, for drinks, especially on a hot day. Or, they played in February all the time. And it was a windy, we're known here because February is always very windy.
Wind was a 4-letter word.
Yeah, and it was just the tents would be flapping and it would be tough, but they would always have a nice thing for us, always be welcoming to us, and sometimes the players would come in and I had great experiences. I remember sitting on the driving range one time and just sitting there and watching Ray Floyd pound 50 times or 75 times just a 7-iron. Just pounding that 7-iron.
How about when they had that driving range? You could also hit it from the other side. Every now and then, the ball would land in front of Sebi Ballesteros, and he would start cursing in Spanish and throw a machete at the guy across the lake. It was great. What was the name of the guy, the famous golf teacher there, that was there forever? The golf pro. He had the academy, and he was a famous high level golf coach, well respected.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to drive me
Up
crazy.
there with anybody, like Bob Toski or any of these guys.
It's going to drive me crazy.
Yeah, Jim something. I want to say Jim something. Very accommodating guy and a very gracious guy too.
Yeah.
All right, I got to bow out a little early, Tony. Texas Roadhouse, though. I wanted to get in one more word for Texas Roadhouse here before we go. Unbelievable. People rave about it, and as I said, that article, described it perfectly. Just how wonderful and dedicated the people are, and it makes a big, big difference. And then you're getting great food at a ridiculously low price.
Exactly. This is the total package. It's not just the food, it's not just the drink, it's not just the atmosphere, and it's not just the service. It's all of it combined. When you can get the number one, the excellent service, the excellent food, excellent price point, coldest beers in town, well poured drinks, all in one place. Where you can bring your children and feel comfortable, you can bring your date and feel comfortable, or you can go by yourself and feel just as comfortable. What more can you ask for? And that's what we keep urging people. Listen, my wife and I were talking the other day, and we're going to make this real quick. We need to buy a certain table, and the one we were looking at was $120, and Roseanne looks at me, she goes, we piss $120 away. And we're not being flip about it, but between coffee and things you don't need or things that you get in the refrigerator and you forget they're there and it spoils or expiration date. And all I'm saying to you is you go to these restaurants and sometimes you walk out with a good meal, sometimes you don't, and you're spending $100. How about you do this for Defo, me, and Lubie? Do us a favor. Try Texas Roadhouse just once. If you don't like it, fine. But I guarantee you will. If for no other reason, you're going to love taking your family there and love the experience. Texas Roadhouse. You won't find any place better.
You're a great American, Tony. We love you, babe. And
good luck with the inspection, Lubie. Go.
Yeah, no, it's just a phantom thing. Yeah.
Go make the coffee.
Literally gonna do nothing.
And I'll work on Jimmy Johnson and the Big Chill.
Oh, please do. We need to do that. We really do, Tony. We've been talking about it forever. All right, Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen, old school Tony Segreto. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Later on today, we'll have Mike Mayo's lunchbox. I don't know about Mayo. He's under quarantine, I believe, today. So, but he will be joining us in some capacity. No,
he will be there, and Mayo is doing the responsible thing, and I appreciate it.
He needs to stay home. This kid, man.
A video from home. He
can't be leaving mucus all over everything. I mean, it's just not good. When he was hacking up, he had just smoked 2 packs of cigarettes, for 20 years, and finally decided to quit. After a choking fit. The other day at that restaurant, we were at Copper Point Brewery.
Yes.
I'm right next to the guy. You notice I leaned back. I found a way to get out of the range.
Yes. Look,
I think that might have spared me, getting whatever disease, acute bronchitis this kid has.
Yes. He's been diagnosed and he has medication and he's feeling better. But
good. Okay.
Give him a day to recoup, and we'll be out there at Even Keel Fish Shack.
We'll be out there eating at Even Keel without Mayo, which, probably makes it even better.
It's great, Brad.
Right? More for us, less for him.
Chicken Farm and Seafood Market, and then Friday Gulfstream Park. So,
okay.
To everything we have here.
All right, we're going to run, and we'll see you next time as we leave you on that.
The time.
It's 8:57.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what the